This is the Outlap F1 podcast featuring America's own Cody, Andy, and Deanna. Your one-stop shop for Formula One news, insights, race previews, and reviews. Join us on the Outlap.
What is up, Outlap F1 Nation? This will be Season 6, Episode 46 of the Outlap F1 podcast. It's our 2024 Qatar GP Preview show, and you've got Andy and I'm along with Cody tonight, and Cody's cat is having fun trying to find the mouse cursor on his end. But other than that, how you doing, sir? First of all, before we do that, happy Thanksgiving to everybody in the U.S. We're recording this on Thanksgiving Eve. We may not be able to get the episode out because I have some commitments I have to do tomorrow morning in terms of meal prep for our family gathering. But other than that, I hope to get this out as soon as we can. But Cody, how does this find you on a hopefully short and quick work week for us?
Yep, for me, work week is done, which is really, really nice. Next week's going to be a little shorter week for me too, which I'm looking forward to. So we're getting to that time of the year where getting all the time off, go do some fun stuff. As far as the cats go, you guys see them from time to time if you're watching the video, but I regularly have a little fluffy audience here. So but it's all good, and looking forward to the Qatar Grand Prix. I'm happy that at least we still got one championship that is up for grabs, because otherwise it might feel a little muted at this point as far as what we're expecting to see out of it. But yeah, it's going to be exciting.
Oh, there is plenty to play for this weekend, and we will get into all of that in just a little bit. So if you have found our show, welcome along, as David Croft likes to say. You can find us, as always, on Twitter, X, whatever that platform is called. That's where we put a lot of our stuff out, but we are there. Instagram, Discord, Reddit, and, of course, here on YouTube. At Outlap F1 Podcast is the handle for all of that. If you enjoy what you're seeing and you like what you're hearing, if you want to do as the kids do and smash that subscribe button or leave us a like, we would be most appreciative of that. And if you're on your favorite podcasting app and you're just enjoying the audio portion of our musings here, if you want to leave us a 5-star review, all that will do is help us come up a little bit better, a little bit more quickly in search results related to F1 related content. And we would also be grateful if you'd like to do that for us. If you have a comment on anything, you can always email the show. Chat now at outlapf1 takes you there. Thank you so much to the people who do continue to support the show, including Dean Warwick, Yuri Dolchester, Paul Weaver, Quentin Warden, Kevin Kelly, Regan Stanzik, Timothy Brown, and of course, Jonathan Scott. If you'd like to become a member of what we call the hashtag OutlapF1 Nation, if you want to leave us $1, $5, it's our anchor page. It's going to be in our show notes. Like I said, all that does is go into, we reinvest it all back into the show. We either buy some new equipment or try some new stuff out, or we, do whatever we can to try to stay relevant. So that's what we're trying to do there. Last thing, as this is now officially the holiday season, Christmas, as you know, is coming, and you can get a deal that we are happy to extend to you. You can get 20% off and free shipping from the good folks at Manscaped. With our code OUTLAP. That's OUTLAP. All you have to do is put that in right before you check out and take advantage of the great offer that we are always proud to bring to you. All right. As we get geared up and ready to go for the Qatar GP, a couple of big, rather large news stories. One really big one, and one that was just kind of affecting the calendar, but it was very, very well received. Let's put it that way. I got a lot of likes when I passed this story along, because Formula One today has announced that the Italian Grand Prix will remain on the calendar until 2031, inclusive as part of a new 6-year extension to the existing agreement, which ran through 2025. The new deal follows significant updates to the Autodromo Nazionale Monza ahead of this year's 2024 Grand Prix, where 335,000 fans across the weekend flocked to the track to see Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari take the checkered flag. Next year's race will take place from September 5th through the 7th. Cody, so it looks like the Temple of Speed is safe on the calendar certainly for the long term, it looks like 2031. That's a nice extension of the deal. Thoughts on the extension?
I didn't think it was going to go anywhere. The Tifosi make that race extremely popular. Calendar wouldn't feel right without it, especially, with the recent Charles Leclerc win. That's got everyone's spirits high in Italy for the Monza race. And even though, the track is kind of a unique track on the calendar in that it's very high speed, a lot of long straights, doesn't really challenge the newer cars the way that it used to challenge older cars, but it's still a very fun track. You get to see a little different configuration with the low downforce. It's just a fun one to see. We've had a lot of great moments there over the years. One of my favorite races in recent memory was when Daniel Ricciardo finally got a win with McLaren at Monza after Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton took each other out of the race. That one was fantastic. So glad that they're going back. I wouldn't be surprised if they extend it far beyond that once it starts getting to like 2030. And who knows, maybe someday I'll make it out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of my favorite circuits, even though usually the race can be sometimes one of the shortest, especially if there's no safety car or funny business or anything like that. Sometimes it goes an hour 10 and whoops, if you blinked, you missed it. But in recent times, I thought it has given a lot more better racing than some of its other tracks that are, of similar ilk on the calendar. It is a very unique setup. It also provides some unique opportunities for teams that aren't necessarily always at the front. The case in point is that 2021 McLaren thing. You want to talk about watching me be nervous, as crazy nervous. I don't think I shook more than that. I could not wait for that thing to get over with. And then when Danny Rick crossed the line, it was, if you wanted to see what a volcano looks like when it explodes, you could have seen what I did. And I know I woke up all the neighbors and I didn't care. I just remember running around the living room, very, very happy, jumping up and down for about 5 good minutes. And it was one of those just magic moments. And Italy does that. Vettel winning in 2007 out of nowhere in a dominant fashion in a Toro Rosso that, that still to this day is one of their 2 ever wins. And then, Pierre Gasly does it again here in Monza. So, again, it's just great to see when other teams get a shot at it if they nail the setup right. I think going into 2026, it's going to be fascinating, Regs, to see what engines do in this aero package and how that's all going to work and how that's all going to look. So, yeah, it's an iconic circuit. It's great. The fans are great. The place gets packed every year. The only thing I'm ever got upset about is why they had to cut down all those trees, but that they did. But, they had, some issues that caused them to have to do that. But if anything, it actually has probably made some of the sight lines a little bit better around the track. So good for them. Good that they put money into the track. This was always historically one of the circuits that used to negotiate in public against Bernie Ecclestone. So it's glad to see that, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We got the deal signed. We're good to go. Like it. All right. And the other story, if you have been under some sort of a Formula One rock, you might not have known about this because it's been everywhere. And here's our little snippet on the story. It is now official. As we brought to you during the Las Vegas GP weekend, it was all but signed. Now it has been signed. General Motors, it is official, will be the 11th team on the grid starting in 2026. A very positively worded statement reads kind of as follows. Formula One announced today that it has reached an agreement in principle with General Motors to support bringing GM Cadillac as the 11th team to the Formula One grid in 2026. Formula One has maintained a dialogue with General Motors and its partners at TWG Global regarding the viability of an entry following the commercial assessment and decision made by Formula One in January of 2024. Over the course of the year, they have achieved operational milestones and have made clear their commitment to brand the 11th team GM Cadillac, interesting, and that GM will enter as an engine supplier at a later time. Formula One is therefore pleased to move forward with this application process and will provide further updates in due course. Now, If you are of the opinion that why did they just kicked Andretti and all that to the curb? This was Michael Andretti following the announcement, tweeted or put on X the following. The Cadillac F1 team is made up of a strong group of people that have worked tirelessly to build an American Works team. I'm very proud of the hard work they have put in and congratulate all involved on this momentous next step. I will be cheering for you. So I guess it meets with Michael Andretti's blessing. Apparently part of this deal means Mario Andretti is going to be on the GM Cadillac F1 board of directors as that moves on. So there is still going to be an Andretti influence, if not necessarily a naming rights thing. It was not made official who the power unit supplier is going to be, but that has been widely reported that it is going to be Ferrari engines until 2028. And as of this point, we don't have any confirmation of who the drivers would be. Although, the obvious candidate, the first candidate that comes up, obviously, if you're going to pick up the Andretti bid, would be Colton Herta. But I do think he still has some super license issues that he still has to resolve, because I don't think those have been resolved yet. But anyway, we'll have to see where all that goes. We've got plenty of time, obviously, to get it together. But Cody, big thoughts on the official statement that we now have an 11th team?
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. And we touched on it a little bit before about how it seems a little strange now that Formula One is all happy and on board with this. Now that Michael Andretti is not involved in name, at least, and is not, at the top of the company anymore. It's been handed off to his associate, and the Liberty Media CEO is going to be stepping down as well. So now that these guys are out of the picture, it does seem a little strange that now everyone is on board with this happening. It makes you wonder how much petty crap was going on in the background behind closed doors. But either way, we're getting what we want. We're getting the 11th team on the grid. It is going to be an American team, which is awesome. And just because the Andretti name is not going to be on the car, it seems, and for that matter, in a lot of the announcements that have been made, Andretti has not really been mentioned at all. It should be known that I believe TWG is associated with Andretti, right? They're like the parent company of yep. Andretti, really. So yep. It's not like Andretti and the folks that were working with him are not involved in this at all. They are still very much involved. They're probably going to be doing a lot of the on track operating of the team. Which is fantastic. So Andretti is really getting what he wanted. He's just not the figurehead behind it anymore. And it seems like he's okay with that. I think he was willing to take what could be considered maybe a little blow to the pride in not having the Andretti name on there. But this project is still going forward. They are still involved. And I'm very excited for this. I really, really hope that we do get an American driver on the grid again, or at least a driver that has been involved in another motorsport category like IndyCar. Would be fantastic to see Colton Herta in there. And he's got another year to try to win the championship. If he wins the championship, He won't have super license issues anymore. So we'll just have to see how that goes for him next year. But I'm sure there's other candidates. We've seen Alex Palou and Pato O'Ward be involved in Formula One tests before. I'm sure they would be willing to throw their names in the ring, even though they're not currently driving for Andretti. It's going to be fun. It could go completely different too, and they could end up signing veteran F1 drivers or junior Formula drivers that haven't had their chance yet. But it's going to be fantastic just having 2 extra seats on the grid, because we've had an issue for many, many years where there's lots of qualified talent to be on the grid that just isn't getting there because there isn't enough seats. We've seen several Formula 2 champions, that have not made it onto the Formula 1 grid just because there's not a spot. And having 2 extra cars on the grid will hopefully get a little bit more of that junior talent to show their stuff.
Yeah, fully agree on pretty much just about everything you said right there. I mean, I kind of ranted when we did our last review about kind of what I thought was some of the pettiness and why that ended up just proliferating it. But it seems clear, you look back on this, that once Andretti stepped down, whether he was kind of asked to do that by Dan Taurus or however that ended up working, once that got out of the way, it seemed like the dominoes all kind of started to fall. So, the best thing is to me, this is Andretti's guts. It's their effort to get it here. And now the GM Cadillac brand will take it into the next phase. It's fascinating to think of who they're going to try to get to drive for them. It's going to be, like you said, 2 extra seats. I've seen some wild speculation. I mean, the name that just gets floated about, I don't know. I don't think that's happening as much as people might want it to. But I do think the Colton Herta angle makes sense. But you will have to kind of see kind of how they go. When Haas came in, I did not expect Roman Grosjean to leave at the time. Was a podium scoring car in Lotus and go over to Haas. So, might they try to pip somebody? We talked about, there's Valtteri Bottas out there. There's going to be other guys that are not necessarily in F1 that may come in, and maybe you want a mix of a young and an older driver. So, it's going to be interesting to see kind of, all that speculation. We can play all those games. We have all of 2025 to do that. But for now, I'm glad that this is done. I'm glad that they all got across the line, and let's see what happens in 2026.
My vote is Sebastian Vettel comes out of retirement.
Yeah. So you're in that camp.
Going way out there.
I've seen some other way out there names floated about too, but I think I don't think Seb wants to. Did I read somewhere where he was going to go off and do like some environmental work or something like that?
Sounds awesome.
I may be completely off my rocker, but I seem to think that he was going to do something. It wasn't anywhere near racing, and he would have to train like a son of a gun for almost a year to get back into racing shape, even at his age. So I got a funny feeling I don't think he wants to do that. I think he's got everything he wanted to out of F1. I love Seb as much as the next guy, but let's look for new names and let's see where this goes. But all right, so we are going to take a quick little break here. We're gonna stop here. We're gonna re-rack. We'll come back. We'll drop our green flag. We'll do our Qatar track facts. We'll get you all ready and primed for the weekend with all the track stats. We'll talk about the weather. The good news, I'll just give you the headline. Nowhere near as hot as last year across the board. So I don't think we're going to have people fainting. Hopefully we don't have to have mandatory tire stops or any of that weirdness like we had last year. And it's a sprint weekend, oh, by the way. So we'll talk about that. We'll get primed for that. And then after that, we'll hop into what we think is going to happen over the course of the weekend with our predictions. Again, it's a sprint race, so we've got some extra stuff in there for that. We'll tell you where and when to find your F1 this weekend. So come on back, and we'll get into all of it.
You are listening to the Outlap F1 podcast, and we'll be right back after this quick pit stop. Grab your flu powder, broomstick, or apparate to your favorite audio streaming service to join the discussion on Hogwarts, a podcast, where Dan and his friends have in-depth chapter-by-chapter breakdowns of each Harry Potter novel. Join the group as they dive into the magical world and discuss plot points, analyze character development, and occasionally go off the rails. Whether you're a muggle who's new to the series or a pure-blood wizard who won't need a remember-all, Hogwarts, a podcast, brings everyone to the Great Hall for a magical discussion. Hogwarts, a podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, welcome back in. This is Season 6, Episode 46, and you found the Outlap F1 podcast. It's our 2024 Qatar GP Preview show, and you've got Andy and I'm along with Cody tonight, and we're about to hop into our Qatar GP track facts, brought to us, as always, by the good folks at Pirelli Motorsport. Cody, tell us about the Losail International Circuit.
All right, this weekend, Formula One goes to Lusail, Qatar for the Qatar GP. Number of laps around the circuit for this Grand Prix is 57, and the length of the track is 3.367 miles. That's 5.419 kilometers. And the tire selection from Pirelli for this race is C1 for hard, C2 for medium, and C3 for soft tire compounds. The track characteristics from Pirelli are a 3 out of 5 for traction, 3 out of 5 for asphalt grip, a 2 out of 5 for asphalt abrasion, 4 out of 5 for track evolution, 5 out of 5 for tire stress, 3 out of 5 for braking, 5 out of 5 for lateral load, and a 4 out of 5 for downforce. Haven't had a whole lot of Formula One races at this track yet. In fact, I believe it's only 2, 3, something like that. But the most wins at this track is a lone 1 win, 1 each for Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen, and therefore the most constructor wins follow suit with 1 win each for Mercedes and Red Bull. The qualifying track record was set in 2023 by Max Verstappen at a 1 minute 23.778 seconds, and the race lap record was also set by Max Verstappen in 2023. That one was a 1 minute 24.319 seconds. What's the circuit like, Andy?
All right, so designed primarily with motorcycle racing in mind, the 5.4 kilometer Losail International Circuit is a fast and flowing track where medium and high speed corners predominate. Over 1 kilometer of the track's total length is made up of the main straight, which provides plenty of overtaking opportunities into turn 1. All right, and as for the weather, which hopefully will not be as big of a story as it was last year, that's for sure. So since we have a sprint weekend and we have day and night sessions, I'm going to give you kind of both the day and evening forecast. So for sprint qualifying for the day during the practice, sunshine, a high of near 75, winds out of the northwest at 15 to 25, so perhaps the wind will be the biggest issue here. Only a 1% chance of rain, so we're probably not going to see the inters or the full wets for sure. And as the nighttime for the qualifying session, clear skies, low of 64, so definitely warmer than we were in Vegas. Winds out of the northwest at 10 to 20. Watch out for the gusty winds. For the sprint race and the qualifying, the day forecast, a mainly sunny sky, high 77, winds out of the northwest, again, 15 to 20. And for the nighttime, for the qualifying session for the main race, clear skies, low near 65, winds out of the northwest, again, 10 to 20. For the race on Sunday, during the day, it will be mainly sunny, high of 76, winds out of the northwest, again, 15 to 25, so at least it's consistent. And for the night, it should be clear skies, low of 64, winds, again, out of that northwest, 10 to 20. So it definitely feels like the wind is going to be your predominant weather factor going into this weekend. All right. This is the circuit that when I look at it, it always looks like I'm unique in this. I see a dog looking and his tail wagging in the back, and the what is it? Turn 4 and turn 7 look like the upper and lower lips of the dog, and it looks like he's going to jump up and get the bone. But that's what I say.
I can see it. I can see where you're coming from.
All right. No one else has ever said that. So that if you're out there, that's an Outlap F1 podcast unique take on what this circuit looks like. And it's temporary. There's eventually going to try to build a full use F1 circuit, but we'll hopefully get probably an update on kind of where that is. But for now, we're racing at Losail. Great for MotoGP. And it's been unique for Formula One. We had issues with tires last year and the resurfacing. I've not read anything about the surface being an issue so far this year. And it's definitely not as hot. Last year, I think we had over 100 degree Fahrenheit temperatures for a good chunk of the weekend. And that was just driving everybody to the point where I think Oscar Piastri in the cool down room was literally flat on his back, having people pour water on him.
Yeah, those guys looked miserable last year. And you even had Logan Sargent get pretty much nauseous in his car during the race and have to retire. Yeah, everyone looked miserable. I was actually wondering how much it was really going to change things, just moving out the race a little bit, because Qatar it's in the desert. It's going to be hot. I don't think it's really ever not super hot there, but apparently moving it out a little bit has done the trick. They are hopefully not going to be, needing the drink quite so bad this time around.
Or having the drink turn into tea, as I think was the case last year. So we will hop into our predictions, and we will start, as we are always apt to do, with the pole sitter, the 2023 pole sitter. He was this pole sitter a lot last year. That was Max Verstappen in the Red Bull. But we've got interesting predictions here. Cody, I'll let you go first. What you got?
I think we're going to see a bounce back by McLaren this weekend. I'm going to go with Lando Norris for pole sitter. He's generally been the more successful qualifier this year for McLaren, and I think this track's going to suit them pretty well.
Yeah, very good. I have to put my McLaren stand. If it's not going to happen here, then I get really nervous because this track should suit them, should suit the characteristics of their car. They've been kind of pointing to it. I've kind of pointed to it. I kind of said, look for Singapore, look for here. So I've got a McLaren going for main pole as well, but I'm going to give it to the other McLaren. I'm going to say Oscar Piastri, unfettered, no team orders coming into the weekend at all. I think this is a track, if he can hook it up, he hooked it up last year in the sprint. I think he might do it here. So I've got Oscar Piastri on the pole. All right, and as we mentioned before, the qualifying lap record right now is a 123.778. That was Max Verstappen's last year. Cody, what you got for a lap time?
I think we're actually going to see quite a bit faster than last year, just in my opinion, because since it's not going to be so ridiculously hot, I think that the tires will handle the track a lot better this time around. So I think we're actually going to go quite a bit faster. I'm going sub 123 with a 122.911.
Yeah, that is most reasonable. I would tend to agree with that. I do think we've got a couple of factors going into this. One, the two factors last year were the heat and the dust. We know we got rid of the heat, but we are still probably going to have some dust because the wind looks like it's going to kind of be creeping up. So I don't know that I do think we're going to go faster. I don't know that we're going to go quite as fast as what you got, but we're definitely in the same ballpark. We're not far off. So I got a 123.158. And I'm wondering if the fact that the quali session will come after the sprint is going to really matter. I have a funny feeling you're going to see your sprint pole and your main pole be dramatically different as the track evolves. All right. So our 2023 podium saw Max Verstappen take the win. And then the two McLarens followed that. Oscar Piastri was in P2 and Lando Norris was from P3. And what I remember about this race, I actually went back and watched it. I forgot that both McLarens had a really bad main race qualifying and started 6th and 10th. And they managed to pull that off. So definitely did suit their car last year. Let's hope, for my sake, I'm hoping for more of the same. Cody, what you got for a race podium?
So I'm kind of throwing a Hail Mary on this one. Not super Hail Mary, but also because I want to see the Constructors' Championship go right down to the wire for excitement's sake. I've got Charles Leclerc pulling an upset here. Maybe going with some little off-the-wall strategy from Ferrari and managing to sneak in and take the win away here. And I think the rest of the podium is going to be filled out by the McLarens. So I've got Leclerc P1, Norris P2, and Piastri P3.
All right. Very good. I do have two McLarens on the podium as well. Again, if it's not going to happen here, my God, where's it going to happen? But again, I'm going with Oscar Piastri. I think there's just something about this track. He was so good here last year. And if you're not going to have the heat factor, I think, endurance, he's gotten a lot better at managing the tires. I mean, again, look at the race in Baku where he did it really, really well for a very long time under a lot of pressure. But I do think that Max guy is going to be a factor. And I look at the McLaren car, I look at the Red Bull car, they tend to trend together, especially lately. So I think the McLarens will be good. And I think the Red Bull with Max will be good. Notice I'm just saying the Red Bull with Max. So I've got Verstappen putting his nose in where it belongs, quite honestly, as he's the 4-time world champion, coming home in P2. And I've got Lando Norris coming home on the podium as well in P3. All right, so we'll take a look at our fastest lap and the driver of that fastest lap. And for 2023, that was Max Verstappen with the 123.449, which is currently the track record. I can talk. track record. There we go. All right. Cody, what you got here?
I think this one is going to be Oscar Piastri. I really think this has to go down to either a McLaren driver or a Ferrari driver. They're both gunning for every point that they can get. So whoever is in the best spot to do it is going to go for it. I think that's going to be Oscar Piastri, and I think he's going to do it with just air faster than last year at a 123.448.
All right. Very good. I have a Ferrari doing it, and I have Carlos Sainz. I think after the big kerfuffle, they're definitely going to try to have Leclerc be the lead Ferrari unless he just botches it. That said, I do think Carlos, where you're going to see the gap and the opportunity to avail to go get the fastest lap, I think is going to be probably with Carlos Sainz. So I'm going to give it to him a 123.947. I actually have it slower. And that's because I think because we don't have the mandatory tire stops, I don't know that everybody's going to be pushing quite as hard as they were last year. You had, because of that rule that had to go into effect between Saturday and Sunday, what you ended up with was everybody was pushing flat out on those tire stints because they were just going to use them up. They didn't care. You only were going to get, I think, 17, 18 laps on those tires. So you might as well use them all up and go flat out. Your differential between qualifying time and race lap time was almost nothing, which you almost never see. Usually you see 4, 5, 6 seconds between them. So I got a funny feeling it's going to be slower, but I still got a 123.947 there. All right, and for our bonus picks, because this is a championship important race and every point matters, as you correctly say, Cody, I'm going to go P4, P5, and P6. So let's see kind of how we have that shake out. So for my P4, 5, and 6, I'm going to go George Russell, because I do think the Mercedes won't be the bad Mercedes, but it won't be the great Mercedes like we saw in Vegas. But P5, I've got Charles Leclerc. I do think Ferrari will be around. I'm hoping that they're nowhere near the McLarens in terms of podium pace, but they'll definitely be there. And P6, I've got Lewis Hamilton.
I think those are good choices. I also think that we said that we didn't think Mercedes was going to be the good Mercedes in Las Vegas, and then we had egg on our face. So who knows how that's going to go this time. I do agree with you, though, that I think we're going to see a less impressive showing from Mercedes this time out. So I've got P4, Carlos Sainz, P5, Max Verstappen. I think it's going to be kind of a moderate showing from him, especially now that he's got the championship wrapped up. He always wants to perform well, but I don't think there's going to be the crazy push to do so this time out. And then I think P6 is going to be George Russell.
All right, very good. And since we have a sprint race, we will try to give ourselves some extra points and maybe boost our confidence a little bit by trying to predict the sprint podium. So it's 1 point for each correct answer in that sprint podium. I'll go first here. I do think this is where Lando will probably be a little bit better. Might come out with the sprint quali and be better early in the weekend. I think Oscar will be better later in the weekend. So I've got Lando taking this one. I do have that Max guy being all around there because I'm remembering what this looked like last year. So I got Max Verstappen P2 and Oscar Piastri P3 for the sprint podium. Cody, what you got?
I have pretty much just a little bit of a rearrangement of what I've got for the Grand Prix podium. I do have the McLarens coming out on top in the sprint. So I've got Oscar Piastri taking the win, Lando Norris in P2, and Charles Leclerc in P3.
All right, very good. So we will see kind of how our predictions stack up against reality as we get through the different sessions on the course of the weekend. And where and when can you find the sessions? And they're not exactly standard times, but it's a holiday weekend in the U.S., so hopefully it means that you'll be able to catch what you'd like to. ESPN family of networks, I have a funny feeling there's going to be some dynamic changes to the channels, so keep abreast to our social media. I'll do my best whenever a session comes online to tell you where you can find it. ESPN family of networks is your main spot. Also, F1 TV is a great alternative as well. So practice 1 kicks off 8:30 a.m. Eastern. That is 7:30 a.m. Central. The sprint qualifying, not working. I actually get to watch this thing unencumbered. It's so good. 12:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Central in the U.S. The sprint itself kicks off Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central. The main qualifying kicks off 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon in Central Time, and the race itself on Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central, just in time to get out of the way for the National Football League. I'm loving this time. It's perfect.
Yeah, I think this is a good one. I just like having F1 on a long weekend. Honestly, you can relax, enjoy it. Don't have to be anywhere after sprint qualifying. So yeah, it'll be a nice.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Keep abreast to our social media, obviously, as always, throughout the course of the weekend. If any interesting news breaks or anything that affects anything that I think is newsworthy, I will definitely do my best to share it over the course of the weekend. We got 2 of these to go. We got a lot of stuff to happen in the championship, not only at the top. That P6 battle is in the constructors is super, super spicy. We got driver classification. They say that it doesn't really matter, but watch them all mark each other and make sure that they all know where each other are in that. So, plenty of stuff still to fight for. Championship on the driver's side is taken care of. Championship in the constructors, very much wide open. So, lots of drama, I'm sure, to come over the course of this weekend. And we will be back to recap it all after the race on Sunday. So look out for that. And until then, may all your laps be fast.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Outlap F1 podcast. If you like what you heard, click that subscribe button and be sure to leave us a 5-star review. If you want to connect with us outside of the show, check out our website at www.outlapf1.com. Find us on Twitter and Instagram at outlapf1 podcast, or email us at chatnow@outlapf1.com. As always, thank you so much for your support, and we'll see you on the next one.